The New York Rangers ended up failing their ultimate goal of winning a Stanley Cup, and with the team in need of strengthening this roster, one big move they could possibly make this offseason is buying out the contract of Jacob Trouba. Now, he's obviously the captain, he's making a ton of money, so it would be interesting to see whether or not the Rangers would actually decide to do that or not, but it definitely comes into factor here that he was pretty terrible this season, especially in the playoffs. When it mattered most, he did not show up and was definitely a liability at times as well, so I think a buyout could definitely strengthen this team and make this decor quite a bit better potentially. So in today's video, we're going to talk about that, whether or not the Rangers should or shouldn't buy him out, and kind of talk about Jacob Trouba as a whole as well, and what this would mean for the team if they do buy him out as well. After watching every single New York Rangers game throughout this playoff run this season, I think it's pretty safe to say that Jacob Trouba was the worst player on the ice for sure. He was a liability at moments, and quite a few times he just made some horrible plays defensively, especially in his own zone, making some terrible turnovers or losing the puck in his own zone, not winning that puck battle or going for a hit, which puts him way out of position there. And a lot of times as well, he is way out of position, especially in a couple clips here. You will see that he made a ton of mistakes this postseason. And in general, in the playoffs or regular season, he makes way too many mistakes to really be a guy on this team who's really trying to compete every single season for a Stanley Cup. That's the ultimate end goal for this team. And having a guy like Jacob Trouba, who is making $8 million per season for the next 2 years, cannot happen. He's making way too much money. He's the captain of this team, and he makes way too many mistakes. He is a true liability out there on the ice. And that's kind of why I do think that buying him out could really potentially help this team out quite a bit. I think overall his game defensively is just not good enough to be on a Stanley Cup winning team at this point in his career. And at least the Rangers do have a goaltender like Igor Shesterkin, who was able to bail him out quite a bit throughout this playoff run and in the regular season, as well as having a goaltender like Quick as a backup. Throughout the regular season, he definitely helped things out there, but in general, Trouba makes way too many mistakes, and way too many of them lead to high danger scoring chances for the other team, which definitely puts the Rangers at a massive disadvantage. Now taking a look at some stats here, Jacob Trouba this season ended up having 69 games played, 3 goals, 19 assists for 22 points. He was a -4. Definitely didn't play the best overall hockey defensively. He was a liability, like I said. And honestly, he does block a lot of shots. I mean, there are some positives to his game. He ended up having 183 block shots in 69 games played. Not too bad at all. 191 hits is pretty good. Had 13 takeaways, 33 giveaways, which is not the best ratio for a guy who's supposed to be a good defensive defenseman. That's his main thing at this point in his career. He's not that great offensive guy that we saw at moments with the Winnipeg Jets. He's supposed to be more of a defensive guy, and he really just has not been that at all throughout his time with the New York Rangers. And now looking at the playoff stats here for Trouba, he ended up having 16 games played, 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 total points, had some pretty good offensive production. That one shorthanded goal came in the second round against the Carolina Hurricanes. He had some good offensive production there. 7 points in 16 games played is not bad at all, but his overall defensive play was not good at all. The offensive game wasn't terrible, but the defensive stuff kind of was for the most part. He ended up having 72 block shots in 16 games played, 60 hits, 10 takeaways, 7 giveaways. So the giveaway to takeaway ratio was a bit better there. We ended up seeing quite a few hits, almost 4 per game, and ended up having 72 block shots, which is quite fantastic. So he definitely can block a lot of shots there. He hits a ton. He's a very physical, tough player, but unfortunately, though, his overall play really just is not good enough. Now let's get into the fun part here, though, really taking a look at whether the Rangers should or should not buy out the contract of Jacob Trouba, and what are the implications if they decide to do so. Starting off here, let's look at the contract itself. It has 2 more years left, including next season, the one after that, at an $8 million cap hit with a modified no-trade clause that kicks in this summer, which is a 15-team no-trade list that Jacob Trouba would submit. So pretty much half the league there almost would obviously be off limits. And then you also have to try and find a team that wants to trade for him as well. And then the fact is that you're going to have to retain some money on that contract unless you're giving up an insane amount of assets, which just is not realistic. So you're looking at probably 50% retained, which brings the cap hit down to $4 million. But then you'd also have to attach an asset or two alongside Trouba going the other way to actually make this deal happen, because no team is going to take on 2 more years left of Jacob Trouba at a $4 million cap hit, even though his original contract is $8 million. Even if retained at 50%, 100%. No team's going to take him on for nothing. You're going to have to give up something alongside him. So it really, in my opinion, is probably just not going to happen there. I think it is a more realistic scenario where we see him bought out, because the cap hit, if he does get bought out, is $4 million for the next 2 seasons and then $2 million for the next 2 seasons after that. So 4 years total. The first 2 are going to be $4 million cap hit, and the second 2 are going to be $2 million each, which I think overall is not too bad at all. You can definitely find a $4 million defenseman that will do a much better job offensively and defensively potentially than what Jacob Trouba can bring. I mean, Trouba is an all-right offensive guy at moments for sure. I mean, 7 points in 16 games played. He definitely can have some moments offensively where he's doing some pretty good stuff, but for the most part, you can definitely find a defenseman for $4 million or less who is going to be a lot better than Jacob Trouba and will not be a complete liability out there, which Trouba was at moments throughout this playoff run. He was a big hindrance to this team throughout this run, and I think adding in a guy through free agency, saving that $4 million there, and using that $4 million that you'd obviously get by buying him out, definitely could provide a much better defenseman in that spot of Jacob Trouba. So I do think that buying him out would make a ton of sense for this team. And throughout this offseason, I will definitely have some videos out talking about some potential good defensemen the Rangers could get via trade or potentially in free agency to replace Jacob Trouba, because I do think that buying out a guy like Trouba here, although it does suck buying out players because now you have dead money on the cap there, because there's a salary cap, you only spend so much money, and having some money pretty much wasted definitely does suck. But in this circumstance here, in this situation, I think personally it makes a lot of sense to get rid of Trouba there, buy him out, and obviously end up getting a better defenseman who was going to do a much better job. It sucks there. I didn't like the trade when it originally happened, though. I didn't want to see that trade happen. I thought it was too much money for Trouba, and I didn't want to see us give up at that time, that many assets, and giving up that first-round pick and Neil Pionk. I think it was not the greatest trade in the world at the time, especially. Now it definitely does not look good either. So I think overall, you buy him out here, you eat that money, it is what it is, but you move on, you get a better defenseman, and hopefully next year we can see this New York Rangers team truly fight for a Stanley Cup. Anyways, though, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please smash the like button. Don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on the Rangers possibly buying out Jacob Trouba, and who do you want to see the Rangers sign in for agency to take the spot of him if it does truly happen. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.